Hello once again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Caregiving Gen X Style. I'm Steve Mullen.
And I'm Jennifer Mullen.
We're pretty sure that if you're listening to this podcast, you are actively caring for a loved one, whether they are parents, family, or a close friend. Correct, Jennifer?
That is true. That's what we believe.
You know who you are, but who are all the rest of the people doing the same thing? In this episode, we look at a survey about the state of caregiving right now in 2025 and who we are.
I can't wait.
I know. But first, Jennifer, how is your mom?
Gagi is actually, she's doing well. The adventures at the dentist continue. We had
That is
another,
a lot of dentist stuff.
A lot of dentist. We had another appointment today. In fact, it was very funny when we were, I was helping her get up and she's using her rollator and we're starting to go out and the dentist says, he's like, do you know which way you're going? And I kind of chuckled. I'm like, oh, we know at this point. We've been there a lot. She's doing well. I thought I would tell just a brief little story related to doing some cooking for my mom. And this goes back many, many, many months ago. My brother and I were hiking. I don't remember if I shared this story before, but my brother and I were hiking and he quietly sort of let me know that some recent things that I had cooked for mom, I guess she didn't really care for them. And she said something along the lines of, oh, your sister isn't really a very good cook.
Which is not at all true.
Which is not, it's really not true. I'm a pretty decent cook.
Here's a little tidbit. My mother considers you an excellent cook.
Well, I know, but your mom's benchmark is
It's a lower bar to reach.
Low,
it's a lower bar to jump over.
It's very lovely that she says that about me. But anyway, I think I'm a pretty decent cook, but fine. Trying to get my mom some fresh whole foods, but I also recognize, and she has been saying this for, years, that her taste buds have just changed. I don't know if it was from COVID or maybe it was even before that, but her taste buds have changed. So she happened to mention last week that she really had a craving for pot roast. Now, pot roast is not something I would normally fix because I don't live in 1975.
It's true. We don't.
But I went to the store. I bought a beautiful pot roast, very expensive piece of meat. And I looked up a very good recipe, an Ina Gartner recipe, for those of you out there who know Ina Gartner, Martha Stewart's nemesis, former bestie, now nemesis. But anyway, a very good cook. I followed the recipe to a T.
Which is unlike you.
Exactly. Red wine, cognac, thyme, fresh rosemary. Leeks. I would not normally buy leeks.
Jennifer is usually the type of cook who's just flinging stuff in there left and right. And it always works out.
Right.
You just have no idea how it got there.
Yep. But I texted my brother. I texted him, first of all, pictures of this delightful meal as it's coming together because it was colorful and looked beautiful, bubbling on the stove and then in the crock pot. And I said, this is my last attempt. I am making this meal for mom. And if she does not like this, I officially give up. And of course, my brother, who's a vegetarian and has been for decades.
For as long as I've known him.
Yeah. Even he was like, oh my God, that looks amazing. So as it turns out, the pot roast, in fact, was a big hit. The pot roast and the mashed potatoes. So it does seem
the mashed potatoes were amazing.
The mashed potatoes were really good this time. Of course, they will never taste that way again.
I know.
Rewind 30 seconds to when you said I don't follow a recipe.
Because you weren't following the recipe on the mashed potatoes, yes.
But anyway, I was very pleased that apparently the pot roast was a big hit. So, however, unfortunately, that means I'm going to have to cook the 1975 meal again.
Yep.
Because that's apparently what she likes.
Just give her something with bologna.
Yeah, Spam. She went on a kick for a little while where she wanted Spam. And, oof.
I would eat roasted Spam for breakfast. Like fried up.
Yeah,
I would do it.
Again. In 1975, I might have eaten it, but, not now. Mostly because I know what it is. Anyway, so that's how my mom is. Steve, how's your mom?
She's doing well. Yeah, overall, no problems at all. I do want to tell a little story. So 1 week ago, as we're recording this, was my birthday. So happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday to you.
My mother is not the type to get all ushy-gushy and do anything out of the ordinary.
Or even remember.
And in the past, yes, it has gone completely unacknowledged.
Yes.
But interestingly, now I did see her the day before. That doesn't always mean anything. But I did see her the day before. And at about 1:15, I get a phone call from my mother, and I'm like, oh, geez, what does she need?
Not the day before. You saw her the day before.
I'm sorry.
And
I
then
saw
the
her the day
of
before.
your birthday.
The day of my birthday.
Yes.
I got a call around 1:15 or something, or whatever it was. And I'm like, oh, geez, what does she need to order? What's broken? What do I need to do? And she just called. She said, I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. This is right about the time when you were born, so I thought I'd give you a call.
Wow.
You could have knocked me over with a feather.
I think you texted me. I think I was at the office or I was somewhere and you texted me and to tell me.
It was rather shocking. Yeah. Now, here's the other thing is she said, now you need to remind me of how old you are. And I said, you don't know how old I am?
All right.
She said, well, no. Well, I know. I just need you to confirm it. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. And
Nice
I said,
try.
Mom, you were there after all when I was born.
All right. Listen,
So, I mean,
you get one or the other. Either she can remember how
true.
old you are in general, but not remember to wish you happy birthday, or wish you happy birthday and not exactly remember your age.
It was extremely out of character for her.
But, you know, sometimes
It was very, very nice,
I do feel like the older people get, the more nostalgic they get. And by the way, I'll put myself in that category too. Not that I'm 85 years old, but, you know, there are certain things I feel nostalgic about that I never would have thought that I would. So
that was nice.
Well, it was very nice.
She didn't know how old I was, but it was nice.
Okay. Hey, take what you can get.
Take what you can get. So in this episode, we're talking about a comprehensive study on caregivers. It takes a look at who we are, the types of caregiving we do, and how we're doing overall. I should mention, some episodes back, we did kind of another one about a different survey. That one was really heavily on financial stuff because it was done by a financial company.
Right.
This is different. This is really looking at who we are.
Yep. So the survey is an annual study from AARP. Shout out to AARP that loves them some caregiving Gen X style and featured us in the magazine in case y'all haven't heard.
Back in April.
But it was a study from AARP and the National Alliance for Caregiving, which it was just released in late July. So it's a fresh, hot off the presses survey. And it asked questions of more than 6,000 people in the United States and identified that 1,250 of them were caregivers. And then those caregivers were then surveyed separately.
And for the purposes of this study, a caregiver is defined as an adult who is providing at least one activity of daily living, or ADL, for an adult. So ADLs include bathing, dressing, things like that.
Wow, now we have a new acronym.
Oh, ADL? That's not really new. I knew that one.
Okay. I feel like we haven't had an acronym for a while.
Yeah, but it's not an acronym. It's just initials. An acronym is a word that you speak that's made up of like.
Oh
it's
my
like
God.
if we called it.
And we might have had this same discussion last time.
If I said ADL, if we called it ADLs, that would be an acronym.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, apparently you're in the know if you know that ADL stands for Activity of Daily Living.
Right.
Continue,
so
Steve.
It can also be that you are helping with instrumental activities of daily living, or IADLs.
Oh my God.
IADLs include less hands-on thing like cooking or shopping. Some of the more of the stuff that I do, I don't do with bathing or dressing. You help with that kind of stuff,
right? My brother and I do. Yeah.
But I think it's safe to say that those two descriptions probably cover pretty much everyone listening to this show.
I would think so.
I would certainly think so.
Well, here's really the big picture finding in this survey. There are a lot of caregivers out there, and the numbers are growing. The survey discovered that 63 million people provide support for individuals with chronic, disabling, or serious health conditions. That is a lot of people, 63 million people. So what that means is 25% of all adults, 1 in 4 in the United States, are caregivers. Just as important, it found that there are nearly 50% more caregivers in the United States than there were 10 years ago. That's a huge
jump. My guess on that is that, I think it's the boomers aging.
Right.
The boomers make up
I would assume
mass
so.
of people, and they're getting older and older. And they started, I think the boomer generation starts in 1945. So they're getting up there to the age where they need some help.
Like 80.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our moms were born in 1940.
Right.
So,
yeah. Right. So they're getting, I mean, the older ones are 80, the younger ones, they're all getting up there, and there's just so darn many of them.
Yes.
That's probably, I'm guessing, it's a total guess, off the top of my head, but I'm guessing that's what's fueling this.
Surely, maybe it's not in the copious notes that I just haven't gotten to yet, but surely there was a survey about the age of the caregivers.
It comes up later.
Oh, okay. All right. I will wait until we get to that point in the copious notes.
So there are a ton of really...
By the way, Squirrel.
Hi, George.
Very funny. As part of my job, I happened to be listening to a very exciting legislative committee meeting earlier this week, as was one of my coworkers and good friends who also listens to this podcast and whose husband has been featured as a voicemail on this podcast. And at the end of this meeting, so I was in the room for the meeting and she was watching it streaming, and there was a reference to copious notes. And so of course I got a text from her saying, "Did you catch that? Copious notes?" So yeah, that was fun. Just a little squirrel. But let's get back to the topic at hand.
Back to the topic. So there were a ton of other really interesting findings in this survey. We're going to go through some of the bullet points and discuss. First off, we, Gen Xers, are the largest age group among caregivers.
Makes sense.
That's no shock to anyone, I think, who is in that age group. The average caregiver in the United States is 51 years old.
There was that stat I was looking for.
Puts you right in the middle of Gen X. And that means the average caregiver grew up with the best Saturday morning television cartoons, just like us.
Right. Do we want to talk about the Flintstones and the Jetsons?
Flintstones and, Coyotes
Bugs
trying
Bunny.
to blow up Roadrunners and
it was
everything.
the best.
I mean, I'm sorry to say, this stuff that's on TV now, let me sound like the old guy yelling at clouds now. The cartoons that are on right now, bleh. Yeah. All of them. Bleh.
Not great. They're terrible. Well, this to me is no surprise that women account for the majority of caregivers. 61%, in fact, of caregivers in the United States are female. More than 60% of caregivers are white and non-Hispanic. And then the next largest ethnic group is Latino or Hispanic individuals at 13%.
So it goes all the way from 60% are white and non-Hispanic and then down to 13% for Latino or Hispanic. That's a pretty big gap.
It's a big gap. Again, I haven't gotten to this point in the copious notes, but what's interesting to me is I wonder what the percentage of Asian caregivers is. And the reason I asked that question...
I believe if you dig in far enough into the study, I believe it did mention Asian, but you would have assumed, because Asians do tend to have multi-generational households, however, so do Hispanics.
That's what I was getting ready to say was, I think it's pretty well known. The Asian culture... Yes, they take care of their elderly, and it really is just I don't even think there's a thought to
it's an expectation.
Right? It's literally an expectation, that doesn't even mean like expectation and oh my gosh, you must do this, but it's just something that's done, which is really interesting to me. So anyway, I don't know, kind of interesting to me that there's not a higher percentage in there for that.
So the overwhelming majority of caregivers are taking care of relatives. That makes sense. 11% are caring for non-relatives, though. So you're dealing with friends, you're dealing with neighbors.
Oh, wow. So, 11%. That's pretty...
Right.
That
I would imagine they're taking care of the IADLs, not the ADLs.
I don't even remember what that means anymore.
IADLs, things like shopping, cleaning, things like that. ADLs are more like
instrumental
bathing,
activity of daily living.
Stuff.
Okay, I need a glossary for this episode, apparently.
Yeah. But the older caregivers, so people like our age and maybe older, tend to be taking care of, I'm sorry, not our age and older, older than us. Yes. So maybe 60 and up.
Yes.
They're taking care of spouses.
Right.
And while younger folks, meaning us and younger, are mostly taking care of elderly people, so their parents, their grandparents, etc.
Yeah,
that all makes sense. None of that is surprising, really, but I thought it was interesting nonetheless. The 11% caring for non-relatives, that's interesting.
Well, it's interesting, but then...
So you're talking about, 1 in 10 caregivers.
No, but I think about... Right. I look around our neighborhood and there certainly have been times, and especially when the kids were here in the house, we have older neighbors who live next door, and when it snowed... we would say to the kids, let's go over and help them shovel the driveway.
We're not cleaning their house. We're not picking up groceries for them, although we could, but we're not.
Well, no, I guess we're not doing that, but I don't know that it's limited to just those things. And then we've got other neighbors a couple doors down who are helping to like mow the lawn for an elderly lady.
I don't think that qualifies
You don't
in this.
think so?
I don't think that qualifies you as a caregiver. That's just helping out a neighbor.
You don't think that's the 11% of caring for a non-relative?
No, I don't think it quite reaches that level.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we can agree to disagree on that one, I guess.
We can.
But, okay. Moving on, caregivers under 50 are more likely to manage short-term or mental health conditions, whereas caregivers over that age typically support individuals with long-term physical health issues.
So you're dealing with younger folks taking care of, maybe it may be that somebody broke a leg. Or something like there has surgery or whatever, or you're dealing with dementia, Alzheimer's,
well, I
that
was
sort
going
of
to say,
thing.
I mean, mental health conditions, yeah.
But the over that age are dealing with people with long-term.
It's more like us.
Yes,
it's more like us with our moms, and okay.
Yes, over 50. We are over 50.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Today, I might actually feel like I'm over 50. I don't always feel like I'm over 50, but maybe today. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Care recipients are mostly, obviously, older adults. Nearly half are over the age of 75. You brought this earlier, the age. Most of these individuals face multiple health conditions. Cognitive issues are the most common health conditions.
Which is interesting.
27% of caregivers report that their care recipient has Alzheimer's, dementia, or another memory-related impairment. 27%. So one quarter. I would have actually, frankly, thought it was higher than that.
I would have thought it was lower than that.
Really? I would have said closer to 50%. Really?
Huh. Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, because I think, those are the people, that's the mass of care recipients, as they called them in this survey. I prefer caregivees myself, but they're the ones who really just can't take care of themselves because they're a danger to themselves and others in some cases.
I get that. I guess just that's a little bit startling to think about the number of people who suffer from those types of conditions. Mm-hmm. It's one of those sort of stark things when the numbers are right in front of you and you realize that. It's a little bit startling to me. So
okay.
All right. Well, what about living arrangements? About 40% of caregivers live with their care recipient. Another 35% are like us, you and me, Steve and Jennifer, and we live nearby. Don't live with them, but live nearby. Now, caregivers who live with care recipients provide more care hours and use help less often, which is, not surprising. Use help, whether it's paid or unpaid, less often than caregivers who live apart from their care recipients.
And that all makes sense. I just was surprised. 40% of all caregivers live 4 out of 10. Live with them. And neither of us do, and that may be why it's kind of surprising us, I guess.
Well, I was going to say that very thing. Our lens is a very similar lens. I mean, certainly there are differences in that my mom is still living independently. Your mom is in assisted living. My mom should probably be in assisted living and probably will be ALF. At some point. Yes, ALF.
That's an acronym.
Not an acronym.
That is an acronym.
Oh, it is an acronym?
Yes.
Because ALF. Although ALF's really a made-up word. It was a fictional character from back in the 80s. I don't
think that's why you call it an ALF. No.
Okay. Anyway. I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry. We were talking about living versus not living.
What I was going to say was we hope at some point to either have a voicemail or maybe as a guest on the show, I have a good friend / coworker who she and her husband, and they have 3 children, moved her mother in with them. And it's been challenging.
It's been a challenge.
Yep. I mean, put an addition on their house and, her mom, continues to get older and continues to
Everyone does continue to get older.
It's funny how that happens.
Tends to happen.
But it's getting to the point, I think, more recently where they're now starting to have this realization of, okay, well, we moved her in with us and this has worked for several years, but we're quickly getting to a point where we may not be able to care for her all the time. Right. So anyway, we hope to have her maybe on the show or at least a voicemail from her at some point.
Right. Oh, it's my turn.
Sure. turn.
So here's another one. Among all caregivers, 32% use paid help. So you're talking about nurses' aide, you're talking about a CNA, maybe an LPN. A bit more than half have unpaid assistance from people like friends or other family members. Use of temporary respite care, which we have talked about and is very, very important if you're taking care of someone 24/7. Temporary respite care use is very, very low. Only 13% have occasional or temporary care so they can take a break.
People, that is not good. We are here to tell you that is not good. It is not good for your mental health. It's not good for your caregiving ability. You have got to have some respite.
And if it's something you can do, so here's the thing, the most common reasons for not using it are not money.
Right.
It's lack of trust, concerns about quality of care, both very important, or guilt over leaving their loved ones.
Yeah, but here's what I'm going to say. Lack of trust.
Money was not one of the top reasons.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Lack of trust. I can't. There's not much I can say to that because, I don't know, maybe you had a bad experience and then it's difficult to trust anyone else. Concerns about the quality care, I suppose that kind of falls into the same thing, though the only thing I would say about that is reminder that if you're talking about a break, some respite care for a brief period of time.
We're talking a few hours maybe.
Right. Maybe it won't be the same quality of care that you personally provide to your loved one.
Of course it's not.
But it's okay. It's
However,
okay.
caregivers tend to be type A personality like who?
Me.
You. Yes.
Okay. But, the guilt over leaving their loved ones, let me tell you, all I have to say about that is you got to try to let that one go.
You got to get over that one.
We have talked about that. We have used this analogy many times on this podcast. It is why when you are on an airplane, if you are about to go down,
I think this is the third or fourth times.
They tell you to put your oxygen mask on first or you cannot help someone else. And it is true. And that is why I keep saying it over and over, because it is the truth. Stephen.
Jennifer.
All right. 30% of caregivers provided care for 5 or more years, and that time span has increased quite a bit in the last 5 years, according to the survey.
Which makes sense because, 5 years ago they were doing it, they're still doing it.
Yeah, exactly. On average, caregivers spend about 30 hours per week providing care, and nearly a quarter of caregivers provide 40 or more hours of help per week.
I suspect this is probably skewed by the people who live with their
Depends
loved
on how
ones,
the data is sliced and diced,
they
for
may
sure.
be basically saying it's 24 hours a day. Add that up.
It could be. Yeah, it could be.
Whereas you and I, it's a lot less than that.
Yeah. The point is, though, there are a lot of people out there who are providing a lot of hours of care every single week.
Basically, the average is 30 hours. That's a pretty heavy part-time job. Nearly a quarter are basically doing a full-time job.
Yeah. I mean, it also depends. I would imagine what's in that data point, too, is, what is being done. Because, for example, in my world, my brother is with our mom more often physically than I am.
Yes.
Right? Like over at her apartment.
Yes.
More physically. Then we split the doctor's appointments.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm doing things like cooking or, the laundry every week. That's my task every week. So it's just, I think there's probably a million ways you could slice and dice the data to get to those hours that are being used each week. Yeah.
Speaking of work, 70% of caregivers work in jobs outside of caregiving. So
Indeed,
they're caregivers and they work as well.
Yes.
Half of all working caregivers experience impacts such as arriving late, leaving earlier, or having to take time off for caregiving obligations.
Yes, said dentist appointments. A lot lately.
Working caregivers more often face negative financial impacts, including taking on more personal debt, using up short-term savings, and leaving bills unpaid or paying bills late. So overall story here is that it's rough on your career and your financial situation.
Yeah. And, I think we're very fortunate that we have not, really had those impacts necessarily. So good for us, but I definitely see how it could happen.
Absolutely.
Can definitely see how it would happen. And I feel a lot of empathy for people who are in that position, because what are you going to do? You're not going to not take care of your loved one.
Exactly. Well, and if you could say, oh, well, we can bring somebody in to help take care of them so I can go to work. Well, then you're paying that person. It's almost like the argument with daycare. So do I, the one spouse that stayed home, is it worth it for them to go back to work and then have to pay for daycare?
Right.
It's a cost benefit of analysis that you have to deal with.
Yeah, cost benefit, but then also career advancement, et cetera. A lot of things to consider. But yeah, it is really interesting that it is a lot of the same things to consider at this age and stage in your life as you might have when you had small children. Going back to that.
And Jennifer gets to go the last thing, which is somewhat positive.
All right.
And she's going to love this.
Okay. More than half of caregivers say that their role gives them a sense of purpose. So this sense is even stronger among Hispanic and Latino caregivers, lower income caregivers, and those caring for non-relatives, which is really interesting.
It is.
But I do think it's, I think we've said this before. If we haven't said this on this podcast before, I'm going to say it now. My mom took care of us. She took really good care of my brother and I, and she sacrificed a lot. Certainly won't go into all those details, but she sacrificed a heck of a lot to make sure that we were well taken care of, that we had food on the table, and that we had clothes on our back. It's our turn to take care of her.
Yeah.
It just is. She did it for us, and now we're doing it for her. And we wouldn't have it any other way. And
it's a complicated thing. My parents were a lot different, but in the end, I had a really nice roof over my head. I had food. I had clothes. They paid for college. And this is something that I just feel like is an obvious thing I should be doing. Why wouldn't you? And at some point or another, we still want to talk to a therapist on this show, because there are a lot of people out there who did not have good childhoods and who do not feel like they owe anything.
Right. And that is a complicated set of emotions. And by the way, I would never judge anyone for that, because that's a really complicated story at this point in your life. If someone did not take good care of you, what do you do?
But it's a real thing with caregiving.
Yeah.
I've seen it, here and there on social media, on different groups and stuff. People saying they didn't do
I think
jack
we've even
for me.
didn't we get an email once? I think we had a listener maybe email us once and sort of ask that question.
I don't recall.
I
don't recall.
We've done so many episodes now. It's hard to remember all of them.
I don't even know what number we're on at this point. But thanks to everyone for listening to this episode. Hope you got a little bit out of it, kind of learned about who we are as caregivers.
Well, I think you said this at the beginning too. Let me just say this. I think one of the biggest takeaways is none of us are alone in all of this.
God, no.
And it goes back to why we started this podcast in the beginning. It was cathartic, but also we discovered very quickly that it was helpful, because then other people knew that there are other people out there doing all these things. And caregiving can be a very isolating thing, because you're so focused on it and you don't necessarily realize that there are a whole bunch of other people out there doing the same things.
And proof positive, we aimed this at Gen Xers, and I hope there are non-Gen Xers listening, because, it's not as though we're constantly talking about, well, as I did earlier, Coyote and the Roadrunner and grunge radio, grunge music, and all that stuff. And we're not really aiming this too far at Gen Xers, but the fact of the matter is, this is proof positive that we are the ones bearing the brunt of this right now. And it's going to move eventually into the millennials, and then eventually into the Gen Zs and all that. But we're the one right now.
Yep.
So if you would like to get in touch with us, we always love to hear, just tell us how your parents are doing. How's your mom? How's your dad? How's your uncle? Whoever it is you're taking care of. Send us an email at caregivinggenxstyle@gmail.com. Even better than that, send us a voicemail. You can also send us a text at this number, 804-723-1221. You can find us on Twitter if you want to send us a message there. Also, Blue Sky, the handle on both of them is at Gen X Caregiving. And if you want to get on Facebook, if you want to find us on Facebook, that's where we post the most. I post about once a week there or so, something. Just go to the show notes of this episode, and there's a link there, and just click on it. It'll take you right to our page. We hope to hear from you soon. Have a great day.
Good night, everyone.